One of the first steps each week before we're able to share the food that we share on Mondays through our Resurrection Lutheran Church food pantry is picking up the food from the Southeast Alaska Food Bank. Recently, we've been able to get pretty much all the food we need, except for a few specific things, from the Southeast Alaska Food Bank. We usually make 2 trips to the food bank each week, one on Friday for the non-perishables, and one on Monday for the perishables and the chilled foods.
And I would like some coffee broth. No sugar, no cream. And can I have this down too?
This has been a year of evolution for the RLC Food Pantry. We began, as we have in previous years, with a line of people out the door waiting for food. And then COVID-19 hit, and we had to completely reevaluate and reconfigure the way we handed out food so that we could continue to make sure that our neighbors were fed while maintaining appropriate social distancing, going through a lot of masks and a lot of hand sanitizer. What we did was give people queue numbers upstairs with hospitality items, sandwiches, breakfast treats, and coffee, and allow people then to take those numbers and wait until they were called in over the loudspeaker to go in downstairs and go through the food line to get their food. Once Safe Space for Schooling started, that got a little more complicated because they were upstairs and were only able to operate for a half day, so that the space could then be really quickly switched over to allow for us to continue to give people these numbers to keep them separated. Now that, and then the floor was being refinished and the whole operation had to be moved upstairs. We had to get really creative about how to keep people separated while allowing them to make their choices. And we ended up with the setup you see here. Now that Safe Space for Schooling is downstairs, we're able to let these tables stay mostly set up, and Safe Space for Schooling can operate for a full day on Monday. People come in, they also have an opportunity to get some clothes and can exit through the alley.
This year, 2,907 people came into the food pantry, which means we fed 6,700 family members. While this was less than the prior years for a number of reasons, school fund programs that were funded throughout the year, Housing First, increased days and hours for the warming shelter, we did encounter a new challenge. In April, we began serving a growing number of new clients to the food pantry.
In April, as Adam said earlier, we realized that we had more and more people coming in who'd never used a food pantry before. As a matter of fact, there was a gentleman that came in, and you can always tell when someone comes to the food pantry for the first time ever, because it takes a lot of fortitude to walk in and ask for help. And he asked if he could get some food. He was a substitute teacher. And of course there were no jobs. And he had never come to a food pantry before. So we started collecting numbers about the individuals who were coming into the food pantry during 2020 that had never been to a food pantry before. Of the numbers Adam talked about earlier, 214 people came in and 554 new people were served during the food pantry in 2020. It does take a lot of strength and courage to come in and ask for help. What we also did was, because St. Vincent de Paul was not receiving donations and they were not open, we were able to get clothing items from St. Vincent de Paul and have them available. First, they were downstairs in the Boy Scout room, and as we change and as we put in the flooring in the Boy Scout room and the food pantry has moved upstairs, we move them up here so that people can still have access to warm clothes and shoes, as well as hats and gloves. All of this has been made possible through the generous contributions of our congregation. Our favorite food pantry fairy, Lorinda Kasner. People just drop off food donations at the door, whether we're open or not. Many memorial gifts list the food pantry in their memorials, as well as grants from the ELCA Alaska Synod, the City and Borough of Juneau Community Foundation grant, and even Douglas Indian Association, who gave us a freezer, which was greatly appreciated. This has added to our ministry. The ministry whereby a person can come in and get a sandwich, a donut, a cup of coffee, and a smile, as well as food that's going to help feed them. This is what we do when we feed my sheep.